good morning, everybody. This is April the 11th, 2023. Now, I realize that Easter was 2 days ago. Easter was Sunday, April the 9th, and this is Tuesday, April the 11th, and I know that many people have put Easter behind them on the calendar. And until next year, Easter comes on March the 31st. It comes a little bit earlier in 2024. But for me, as a believer in Jesus Christ, Easter is not just limited to one day on the calendar, just like Christmas. The spirit of Christmas and the spirit of Easter should not be limited to just one day on the calendar. It should be in our heart year-round. So, with that being said, I do realize that most people are not thinking about Easter anymore. Now it's time to think about Mother's Day and Father's Day and all of that. But the Holy Spirit prompted me that I just needed to get beyond the fact that most people have put Easter in the rearview mirror and are moving on until next year. But I just felt a prompting of the Holy Spirit to talk about why Easter is called Easter and other facts about the holiday. Now, today is April the 11th. This article was written on April the 12th, 6 years ago. And I just found it. That's really pretty. Let me see here what I can find. I know that. Did you know that the word Easter is not even found in the Bible? Did you know that? Oh, that's talking about Christmas. Okay. Okay, so let's get to the meat of this article right here. And again, I didn't write this, obviously. I'm just reading it off the internet, okay? Since the days following the winter solstice gradually become longer and less dark, it was ideal symbolism for the birth of the light of the world, as stated in the New Testament Gospel of John. Similar with the case of Easter, which falls in the close proximity to, oh, right here, okay, so they're talking about Christmas right here. The birth, all right, when Jesus came into the world, it was the light of the world and the darkness of the winter solstice and everything. But similar with the case of Easter, which falls in close proximity to another key point in the solar year, the vernal equinox, when there are equal periods of light and darkness. For those in northern latitudes, the coming of the spring is often met with excitement, as it means an end to the cold days of winter. Spring also means the coming back to life of plants and trees that have been dormant for winter, as well as the birth of new life in the animal world. Given the symbolism of new life and rebirth, it was only natural to celebrate the resurrection of Jesus this time of the year. Now, here's really what I want to focus on. The naming of the celebration of Easter seems to go back to the name of a pre-Christian goddess in England, eostre, or estro. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing it right. I don't know how the E and the O vowel combination sounds there. Estre. I'm just stumped. I don't know about the E and the O vowel combination. Who was celebrated at the beginning of spring. So Easter actually goes back to a pre-Christian goddess in England as far as the name. Isn't that something? The only reference to this goddess comes from the writings of the Venerable Bede. Again, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. A British monk who lived in the late 7th and in the early 8th century. Bede wrote that the month in which English Christians were celebrating the resurrection of Jesus had been called eosturmonath in Old English, referring to a goddess named eostre. And even though Christians had begun affirming the Christian meaning of the celebration, they continued to use the name of the goddess to designate the season. Bede was so influential for later Christians that the name stuck, and hence Easter remains the name by which the English, Germans, and Americans refer to the festival of Jesus' resurrection. So, the name Easter does not appear in the Bible. Now, maybe you don't know that. Maybe you don't know that the name Easter does not appear in the Bible, that Easter comes from this goddess named, I don't know how to pronounce that. Anyway, so that's where the name Easter comes from. Isn't that something, some type of goddess from another religion? So the name Easter doesn't even appear in the Bible. And now I touched on this in another video, the connection with the Jewish Passover. It is important to point out that while the name Easter is used in the English-speaking world, many cultures refer to it terms translated as Passover because of the Jewish festival of Passover. And as I have given the history to my son, I have told him and showed him in the scriptures that Passover goes back to the Exodus in the Old Testament. And the Hebrew Bible, Passover is a festival that commemorates the liberation of the Jewish people from slavery in Egypt, as narrated in the book of Exodus. And it was and continues to be the most important Jewish seasonal festival, celebrated on the first full moon after the vernal equinox. At the time of Jesus, Passover had special significance as the Jewish people were again under the dominance of foreign powers, namely the Romans, and Jewish pilgrims streamed into Jerusalem every year in the hope that God's chosen people, as they believed themselves to be, would soon be liberated once more. So, let's see what else it says. On one Passover, Jesus traveled to Jerusalem with his disciples to celebrate the festival. He entered Jerusalem in a triumphal procession and created a disturbance in the Jerusalem temple. That's Palm Sunday, by the way. It seems that both of these actions attracted the attention of the Romans, and then as a result, Jesus was executed around the year AD 30. Some of Jesus' followers, however, believe that they saw him alive after his death, experiences that gave birth to the Christian religion. As Jesus died during the Passover festival, and his followers believed that he was resurrected from the dead 3 days later, it was logical to commemorate these events in close proximity. Some early Christians chose to celebrate the resurrection of Christ on the same date as the Jewish Passover, which fell around day 14 of the month of Nisan in March or April. That reminds me of the car, Nissan. These Christians were known as Quattrodecimans. The name means 14ers. That's interesting. By choosing this date, they put the focus on when Jesus died and also emphasized continuity, how do you say that? With Judaism, out of which Christianity emerged. Some others instead preferred to hold the festival on a Sunday, since that was when Jesus' tomb was believed to have been found. In AD 325, the Emperor Constantine, who favored Christianity, convened a meeting of Christian leaders to resolve important disputes at the Council of Nicaea. The most fateful of its decisions was about the status of Christ, whom the council recognized as fully human and fully divine. This council also resolved that Easter should be fixed on a Sunday, not on day 14 of Nisan. As a result, Easter is now celebrated on the first Sunday after the first full moon of the vernal equinox. Now, I made a separate video about that. A few days ago, I made a separate video about why does Easter's date change on the calendar every year. So if you like the content of this video, check out that one. I'll put an end screen up at the end of the video for that. So Easter is now celebrated on the first Sunday after the first full moon of the vernal equinox. Okay, so we're not going to get into the whole Easter bunny and Easter egg thing. That's just not something that I am going to even use my time to discuss. The whole bunny and egg thing is just not, I relate the Easter bunny to like the whole Santa Claus thing. Although there was a real Saint Nicholas. There was obviously a real Saint Nicholas in the early Christian church, but he is not the Santa Claus that we have today in our marketing to buy. Anyway, I feel the same way about the Easter bunny. And if you want to know more about the Easter bunny and where that came from, I'll leave that up to you, because I'm not even going to. It's not even worthy of my time. It's just not. So, anyway, there's all kinds of things to learn about all of this. And I just wanted to, the Holy Spirit prompted me just to share with you about the name Easter is not even in the Bible. And that sounds so shocking, doesn't it? It sounds shocking to think that we have a holiday. Well, when I'm thinking about it, the word Christmas is not in the Bible either. Isn't that funny? The word Christmas and the word Easter are not even in our Bible. Now, that is some food for thought this morning. So I hope that I've given you some nuggets of information to further prompt your interest in the whole idea. So I found this. It's called Why Easter is Called Easter and Other Facts About the Holiday. And by The Conversation, dated April 12th, 2017.